Good evening and welcome to Turning Point. We begin tonight's episode with an interview with Paul Francis, leader of Glenwood Community Church. Like everyone else, they've been in lockdown, but they're coming out of it with a brand new building. Glenwood's been here 40 years, big, you've had a big impact on the city, big impact on this area of Llanedin, and there's always been this big value of, I would call it, I don't know if you call it blurred lines, so it's not, you know, us and them. I've never felt that in Glenwood, but it feels like you're in the community, you're for the community, and the community come in and out, and nobody really is asking, are you a member or not? You're just, if you're here, you're here, and you're part of it. And so, you know, driving along today, I noticed, I knew you were doing this anyway, this beautiful, I wasn't calling it bow-shaped, you tell me it's actually a rotunda.
It is a rotunda.
And it's a beautiful looking piece of building, but I know it's, the vision again isn't so that you can have more meetings on a Sunday. It's a very different vision, or an extension of the vision you're already pursuing. So do you want to just tell us how, because this is all happening in lockdown, so whereas a lot of churches had to close down, you haven't been open technically, have you, in terms of...
Not in terms of Sunday service, no. And we haven't been open in terms of ministries activities. No.
So, but whilst that's been going on, this building has just taken shape. So maybe tell us, before we get to what it is now, what the vision behind it is and how it came about so quickly.
Well, we've been... you're quite right. It was never a vision to make... Our hall can seat about 500. And it was never about making that a bigger hall to get more people on the Sunday. That never really crossed our minds, actually. It was more to do with the fact that we were running out of space for activities to do in the week for the community and for the church, and we were just tight on space. And the building was also, looking a bit old and shabby, to be fair. But the journey started probably 10 years ago. We just began to talk about it, looking at it, and it probably picked up about 6 years ago. And we got to the point where we had designed something, but it was on the other side of the church building. And cut a long story, engaged with the church, we just didn't feel it was right, so we paused it. But then we went back to the architect and said, listen, why don't you develop something that would create more rooms where we can do stuff for the community, more space where we can have a teaching kitchen, where we can do drama therapy, create something that's lighter, more open, more welcoming, and we want this amount of square meters, because that's, we feel we could just about go for that in terms of trying to raise funds. So he began this process of designing the building that you've seen now today, and when we first saw it, we thought it was fantastic, and there's only been a few small changes from his design that he did originally. So he did a great job.
I mean, I'm hoping with this we'll post I know that you've got a short video that's been commissioned for this, so hopefully people will see it. But I mean, it's a large extension. Just doesn't do it because it's like a wing of a building, except that it comes out, it this rotunda shape means it's pointing into the estate.
Yes, yeah.
Effectively on 2 floors, big meeting spaces. You talked about, I think you said there's going to be counselling, there's going to be art therapy, drama therapy,
teaching, healthy eating, teaching classes in the kitchen. So we've got a professional teaching kitchen now with 4 stations to it to teach healthy eating.
A fantastic youth space.
Lovely new youth space where we can do many things, but obviously part of the thing will be drama therapy and play therapy. Our children's worker is doing an MA in play therapy and also art therapy. And I mean, such a time as this is, the great phrase from the Bible.
Yeah.
When we started this, who knew the pandemic was coming?
Yeah.
And the incidence of mental and emotional well-being are just rocketing.
Yeah.
And the need for support and help is huge.
Yeah.
And we're not the answer, we're part of the contribution towards the answer, but for such a time as this, we have this wonderful new resource that we want to use to bless the community. And since we started, I've said to the church, listen, I'm an engineer, so I've loved it by training. But I said, listen, it's bricks and mortars at the end of the day. The issue is what comes out of it, and the ministries that can come out of it.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of having that building that we had in the past, we're not precious about a building.
Yeah.
We're not going to be precious about this building in terms of. We want to maintain it well, but we're not going to say you can't do certain things because it might mess the building up a bit. You can't do that. We want to serve people. So it is exciting, actually. It's also a responsibility.
But it's the scope of the ambition is huge. You might even say it's you can only do it in partnership with. Yeah. I know there's some things. Yes. You're doing and the funding to some extent reflect. Do you want to talk about the way the money came in for this, but also the kind of partnerships you're going to be creating in the future?
Well, we started the funding bids, and for some funders you need to have partnerships. So we went to Welsh Government, for example.
Okay.
And rightly so, they wanted to be working in partnership. So we partnered with the local health centre, Llan, which is in the Malva. And because they wanted somebody they could point to for social prescription. Yeah. So that basically, I went through burnout 25 years ago, and you went on medication and you're told to speak to somebody, both of which are great. Mm-hmm. What they would do now, they may well do those 2 things, but they'll also say you need to get involved in something to do with the community because it's beneficial. Yeah. So, we have a gardening club, so there could be signposted to that. There's a knitting club and an indoor bowls club and, healthy eating and youth control. So there's signposting to them. Yes. And so so they partner with it. So when we put the bids in, they were partnering. And the reason why it's absolutely nothing on one level to do with me at all is in all my life I've never known this. We put in for 13 trusts and grant application bodies, and we got a positive response from 9. Now that's a huge percentage. And I'm just thankful to God and God's goodness. We by and large got all the money to pay for it. Yes. And which is a wonderful place to be. I won't be hanging around. Not that I'm going to be around for, but to saddle the church with a debt. No. We really didn't want to do that. No. And I'm just thankful to God that we've been able to do that, really, to finish this thing and not have debt.
That's extraordinary, because I guess when he started it, it was a journey of faith, wasn't it? Because he didn't know this was going to come.
We didn't know it was going to come.
At the time, he just went for it.
We went for it. I remember, so it's going to sound more grand than it is, I was in Korea a year last January, just as this story about a virus was coming out.
Yeah, wow.
And the trigger for us was whether we got a grant off Heritage. That was the big grant. And I got a phone call at 11:30 at night in Korea to say, we just heard we got the grant.
Wow.
So at that point, when I got back, we met as trustees, and we're still hundreds of thousands short.
Yes.
But the builder said, you're either going to tell me to go or you can't go. Yeah. So we said, okay, let's take the step of faith. And we took the step of faith, and within a month we'd raised the additional money for it. So it's one of those stories, will that happen again? Who's got a clue? But it's just remarkable. I'm just thankful to God that finance hasn't been a massive stress with this project.
So the cost of this really hasn't fallen that much on your members, if you like.
It hasn't. All that happened, there was an individual donor from Scotland who said, listen, I'll give you a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
And it was a considerable amount of money.
Yeah.
But he said, I want it match funding. But not only do I want a match funding, I want a match funding from the church, from your church.
Oh, okay.
And we thought, oh, go up. And because, you know, I know there are one or two wealthier people in the church, but most are not.
Yeah.
We're not a wealthy church, we're quite a poor church in that sense, financially. And so he said, no, let's go to the church. So we wrote to the church, said, listen, folks, we have this opportunity. Well, the church was remarkable. They responded and gave far more than the original person gave.
Yeah.
Just, that told you the church were fully behind the project, because everybody gave, you know, it wasn't... It wasn't that 3 people giving a huge amount of money, it was everybody.
Yes.
So it was just fantastic. And I was just so just wonderful.
Yeah. So you've got this swanky building, and any number of grant-making bodies have given. So, and in terms of the people, you talked about various therapies that are going to take place. There'll be a mixture of either people who come from within the Glenwood community, or they'll be signposted from Llan.
Basically the people who want to serve will either come through Llan for the health centre, through the local school, connection with the local school, or through, as you say, we've been here 40 years, so the community know us.
Yes.
And so therefore people say, if you go there, it might be able to help you. So it's word of mouth. It's a health centre, it's schools, it's relationships you already have with the community. Yeah.
So another impossible question coming up, really, Paul. But as you look back over, does the Glenwood of today, does it look much like the Glenwood of 40 years ago, would you say?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It does in the sense of that heart and that spirit which Alf Harker had.
Yes.
Which said, let's build a sports centre, not a normal sanctuary. It still has that. And it still has that heart. That's why the reason I'm still here is because of that heart.
Yes.
And because also our heart, it's constantly willing to be on a journey and to change. You know, and that's great for a church and for people to have that mindset.
Yes.
But it's different in terms of culture, it's different in terms of a Sunday morning service will be radically different to what it was back then. It's different in terms of, you know, just everything's changed, hasn't it? But the heart and the passion and the spirituality of why we do things is fundamental, and that hasn't changed at all.
And as you look, you know, this is impossible now. So, what do you think? I mean, you know, the new rotunda. Are you going to give it a separate name? That bit of it, or
we are going to give it a name, but that's going to be announced. We can't, we can't go public now. It's going to be a lovely gesture. You'll find out.
But the Poor Francis said.
I can definitely tell you, my name doesn't come anywhere near it. My name's nowhere near it.
But I wonder what. Can you imagine what impact this is going to have on what Glenwood over the next 10 years?
No. My prayer is it has an impact. My prayer is it primarily impacts this local community, and that, you know, lives are transformed. I pray that, you know, people become followers of Jesus. I pray that poverty is reduced and mental well-being is reduced. All those things, you know, you hope and pray for. And, you know, if we can bless other churches wider than us and, you know, continue to be a resource church, which we've always felt we're called to be fantastic. But, you know, if somebody asked you 5 years ago, you know, what will happen to the church in 5 years, and you say, oh, actually, you won't be able to meet for a year, and you know, you'll be using technology, and which is changing church already. So I just pray that we're still here. And when we took over this building where we did the homeless work, it was an old gospel hall, and everybody died. So there was nobody there. And when I went in, the builder fell through the floorboards because it was rotting with dry rot. And I remember standing there saying, God, please, while I'm alive, don't let this happen to Glenwood. Now, you can't fall through the floorboards because it's all concrete. but never be a church building where they've got to close it because nobody left.
Yeah.
And never be a church building that's become so insular that you're not looking outwardly. So that's my prayer, that this church will continue to thrive and grow long after I've gone.
Yeah. And the lovely thing about Tabs, of course, is that something has died there, but I mean the renewal in terms of,
and it's you could have a debate about this, but I think it's church.
Absolutely,
it's church down there, and the people come there, they're vulnerable, and other churches help, so it's an inter-church thing, which is great. It's their church. They see it. They may not use that language, but that's what it is for them. It's church.
Well, Paul, thank you. Bless you. Thanks for giving me your time.
It's a pleasure, Gethin. Always lovely to talk to you.
Our next turning point involves an encounter in the Gospels between two women and Jesus. And by the way, we need to approach this passage using our imagination.
Imaginative contemplation is a way of getting to know and even meeting Christ in the Gospels. The ultimate goal is personal encounter with Him. Take your time with this kind of prayer. God is in no rush. As you listen and pray through this exercise, feel free to press pause and take more time when you need it. If it seems that you or the Holy Spirit want to take a different direction than I'm leading you, go where you need to go. First, we familiarize ourselves with the passage.
Now as they went on their way, he entered a certain village, where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks. So she came to him and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her."
As you begin, be still and let God look at you or be with you. Notice how you are at the start of prayer. What is on your mind, in your heart? How is your body today? Acknowledge how you are before God. What are you seeking in this prayer? Do you want to get to know Jesus better? Do you hope for an encounter with him? Let God know. Begin to see this scene in your mind's eye. Jesus is there, the two women, possibly some disciples. Where are you in this scene? And who are you? One of the named characters, or another person, a friend perhaps? Our scene begins as Jesus enters a certain village, probably Bethany, close to Jerusalem. He is welcomed into the home of Martha, the sister of Mary. Take some time to imagine him arriving at a place of rest. How does this small village look to you? Don't worry about historical accuracy or exact details. Let a few simple houses come into view. Be there in the scene. Where are you? See Jesus arrive from your perspective. Is he alone or in company? Notice the landscape. Any vegetation? The weather? The temperature? The time of day? Feel the sun's warmth on your face and hands, or the cool of the evening. Notice the clothes you're wearing. The sounds of the place. The smells. The mood. If you need more time, take it. Otherwise, we'll let the scene unfold. Watch as Martha greets Jesus and welcomes him into her home. He enters the house, perhaps others do too. Where are you now? Mary greets him too. Jesus takes a seat. How does he seem to you? Mary stays with him, taking the place of a disciple, at his feet. She's listening to him. What is he saying? Do you catch any of it? Turn your attention to Martha. She's preparing the meal. Notice her activity, her mood, her feelings. Perhaps a glance towards Mary, still sitting with Jesus. What's going on for Martha? And then she decides to do something about it. Watch as she goes to Jesus and makes her complaint. Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work on my own? Tell her to help me. How does she say these words? What is this like for Mary? Notice as Jesus looks at Martha and then responds to her. Martha, Martha. How does he say her name? You're worrying about so many things and missing the most important. Mary has chosen the better part here. It will not be taken from her. Is that what you hear? Notice the effect on Martha, on Mary, on Jesus, on yourself. The narrative ends there, but not the story. Let it continue in your mind's eye and ear. Follow Martha if you wish. Speak to her. Allow this scene to continue in some way that is unforced. Play your part in it. Give yourself an opportunity to speak with Mary or Jesus too. Take your time. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.